It can be difficult to up-level and elevate 7 generations. We are exiting the patriarchal age, and it's not going to happen all at once. It's going to be a process. But the Aquarian age, known as the technology age, is helping us get connected to each other. We are sharing. Sharing and inclusion was basically forbidden in the Piscean age, known as the medieval Romanesque Roman period. So sharing and inclusion was basically cut off, right? Connection was cut off, and we are recovering from that being cut off. We've been cut off emotionally. Women were basically told that they are crazy for having emotions, right? They need to go to a sane asylum. Men were told that they are crazy for having emotions and to grow a pair and be a man, right? So we've been cut off, right? When it comes to women group, a lot of women groups during the patriarchal age was considered witchcraft, right? It was our mysterious and mystic teaching that we were doing together in our little groups. It just was not accepted, right? Women were the property of men, right? And a lot of times women did not have community with other women, right? Unless it was on the down low. So we are exiting that patriarchal age where sharing and inclusion was very much forbidden. And what's helping us to connect is the technology age. Now, the technology age is very saturated, as we know, and it will continue to get saturated, right? We're basically trying to make the technology age in the image of the patriarchal design, which is we know the patriarchal design, which is about kind of false information and distraction, and it's about confusion. In the patriarchal age, we were very confused. We didn't know what was going on, right? We were entering into all these wars, and nobody really knew what the wars were about and what's actually going on until months into the war. Then people were like, okay, I'm starting to figure it out, what's actually going on. There was great confusion in the Piscean age. Men were very much confused about their manlyhood, right? What it means to be a man. They were kind of very much confused. They thought to be a man means egomania, right? But that didn't really work, right? Egomania did not really work. And women were very much confused about their role, right? Am I a sex slave? Am I property? Am I just meant to procreate? Like, who am I as a woman? I have no clue, right? We're very much confused about our humanness, and we're confused about our beauty and confused about our position in life. And when we're confused about a position in life, we tend to be very insecure. And we know insecurity can lead to a lot of agitation, as men who are insecure, but they don't want to be insecure. They're agitated by other men who challenge them, right? And sometimes that agitation can get so much so that, men become irrational and let's just go, let's just fight each other and try to chop each other's heads off and stuff like that. Right? So we've been there, we've done that, we've seen it, and now we're ready to move beyond that, right? In this technology age, known as the Aquarian age, marks the transition from patriarchal, heavy patriarchal influence, known as the hierarchical caste, is what I call it. So the hierarchical caste is basically you are enslaved in your position, right? And vast majority of positions available on planet Earth were very low vibrational, right? There was really no potential for people to really develop their spirituality, their creativity, and their prosperity, right? It was very much cut off from them, right? It's almost like our livelihood as women was very much kind of stolen from us, and the livelihood of men was stolen from them as well, right? So as long as women are, oppressed, men are not going to do too well, right? And as long as men are oppressed, right? Their humanness is is regressed by this hierarchical dominance. We're still not going to find balance. So right now we're trying to find balance, and that's why we're seeing a lot of women being brought into leadership positions, because they're known as the judges, right? And in the not so ancient past, before this heavy patriarchal age, just like our technology and our fake news and this false information, it's very much what's the word, convoluted, in the way that it is not clear, right? It's more of like a sense of distraction or illusionary than it actually is brazen, cut and dry, like honest, right? And women are very much like the judges, and you go to courtroom, you hear judge is no BS. It's like, let's get authentic here, right? I don't have time of day for the illusionary sort of roundabout, distractive kind of thing. I want to create resolution. And a lot of these judges were women in the ancient past, right? Before, this whole Roman, kind of, we call it like the Roman Athenian sort of republic establishment that basically sort of created frameworks for what we have today, right, when it comes to judges. But before that, we had a council of women, right? In this council of women, very much they had the knowledge of their lineage, right? Women had the knowledge of their lineage, and that's what gave them the experience, right, to lead their people into resolution. So justice and fairness and resolution was very much a woman's practice, which is quite interesting, because women were also responsible for the health and wellness of the community, meaning they were medicine, right? We usually hear medicine women. We don't really hear medicine men, right? It's usually medicine women, right? If you've heard that term, it's usually medicine women. So what that means is that a lot of times we were responsible for the health and wellness of our community, either that be justice, right, and the fairness, or it be actual like herbalism and being a doctor, or helping to facilitate children into the world, or helping elderly to pass over. That was very much our kind of duty, right? We would help bring children in, we would help elders to pass, and we would also provide medicine. We would provide herbalism, we would also provide ritual, and we would also provide, we would teach, right? We would teach trade, right? Such we would treat the trade of our lineage, right? As a lot of women have, it's kind of like the what do you call the recipe, right? The grandma's recipe that's been handed down for many generations. It's kind of like that, but it doesn't necessarily be a recipe. It can be like any sort of trade. It could be making canoe. It could be any form of craftsmanship. We women were very much, we're teachers, right? We were teachers. And men were very much like builders. And that's why in the Roman period, building became woo! And think of the Roman to Romanesque to medieval, how big everything got, right? How you think about the Romans, like, whoa, they spent like probably all their state sort of income on these huge sort of religious centers that we know, right? Huge religious centers with all these gems. That was probably the whole state's income, right? And Romans created the aqueducts, they created city-states, they created roadways, they created bridges, right? And all of that became the framework for what we have today with all these skyscrapers. So, in the patriarchal age, we know how to build, right? We got very good at building, and a lot of it came from the blueprints from what we know as the Romans and the universities within this sort of center, right? This sort of epicenter, what we know as Rome, that really kind of spread out. It really spread into other territories, and it influenced other territories, right? Toward territories up north, right? Territories to the east, even territories to the west, right? Even to the north. I mean, really, this Roman sort of empire, it went everywhere. It really did spread. So that patriarchal age, the epicenter was very much, we can see, created in this, what we know as today, especially in the United States of America, right? We can kind of trace that back to that the epicenter, which is the patriarchal Roman, right? The white Roman sort of establishment. So with the matriarchal age, we don't have much documentation on the matriarchal age. We always go back to Egypt, right? Egyptologists who are curious about time before the patriarchal age, right? Usually they go to Mesopotamia. I was about to say Mesoamerica, but it's Mesopotamia, right? We go to Mesopotamia. We think of like the Babylonians. We also go, to I call it early pre-dynastic Egypt, which is considered like the Kemet people, civilization. And usually we go there to kind of get a glimpse into time before this patriarchal lens that everybody globally is very much viewing life through the patriarchal lens, solely through the patriarchal lens, which is nothing wrong with it, but in order for us to have balance of the scales, we do need to we have two eyes, right? So you don't want to look at life through one eye, you want two eyes, right? So we don't just want to look through the eye of the patriarch, we also want to look through the eye of the matriarch, right? Because it's better to have two eyes than one eye, right? Because when you have one eye, you can't really see. There's another side to life. There's a whole nother realm to life that you can't see with just one eye, right? So a lot of us, we are basically just seeing through one eye, and that's the patriarchal lens, where we just completely missing, and that's history too. We're completely missing this history. Like there's this view of history that we are completely unable to see. We're oblivious. It's there, but we can't view it with only one eye. We need to really expand our lens and really be inclusive of the matriarchal lens. And that's what the Aquarian age is doing, because the Aquarian age is bringing up, kind of digging up, right? Digging up history that is beyond the patriarchal age, right? So the Aquarian age is bringing us together, and when we share and when we're inclusive, we actually can share our lineages with each other. And vast majority of information that is here today has been carried either orally through like storytelling, or has been carried through practice, right? Through training and teaching. But a lot of the information, like let's say in the matriarchal age, was not written. Like 40,000 years ago, we probably did have a written form, but again, there's these periods where we have like the Great Flood, or the axis of the planet sort of tilts and call it the Great Flood, basically, right? We have these periods where there's like this Great Flood, and then human kind of restarts. So when that happens, our written language, and definitely anything that we've written down is a lot of times lost, right? It's lost, but it's not lost, right? Because it's stored within the remembrance, right? The remembrance, it's stored within in the remembrance, and then it's shared through storytelling, and then also shared through practicing, like yogic science, which is 40,000 years old. It was through oral tradition, but it's more so through participation, right? The teacher would teach, and the student would practice and practice and practice. And you think of the yogis and the gurus, they practice all day long for their whole life, the same kriya for the whole life. And then they also teach the younger people, right? That's kind of how we were able to keep, right, this knowledge very much intact during these progressions in time that could inhibit us from, that would not inhibit, but they would kind of sort of try to dominate, right, sort of dominate our attention. So with Aquarian age, now all of a sudden, like, we get to share. Like, we get to the indigenous people, and let's say in Australia, they get to share, right? You can watch documentaries on the indigenous people in Australia, and you get to learn about their lineage and about their oral tradition, about the star beings. And then you can also learn about the Cherokees and their sort of oral tradition, about their sort of quote-unquote star beings, right? And you get to see, like, whoa, there's actually commonalities, and that's how we're actually expanding our mind, expanding our idea on what history really is, because we're now sharing and we're now including each other in discussion and dialogue and in community. So the indigenous people of Australia are all of a sudden, like, there can be a connection to the indigenous people in, let's say, Africa, right? And what's happening is a lot of people are coming forward and will come forward, and they will share their what their lineage taught them. Either that was about, let's say, the Holocaust, right? If you have ancestors that were, in the World War II. Either you have ancestors who very much were medicine women, right? And let's say they had some sort of ritual, or they had some, like, again, a trade, and you can share that. And what we're finding is, through the sharing, we're kind of puzzling back together time, because time has been very disjointed and has been very fragmented and disconnected, right? In the patriarchal age, it was very much my way, the highway. When we think of, like, the Taurus age, right? What do we think? The Taurus age. I think that was the Minoan period. I'm not sure about the bull, the period of the bull, which again was like beauty and, Venus energy. Because the Minoan civilization very much created the Mycenaean, and the Mycenaean written form created, basically, was the framework, the basic framework for what we know as the Roman sort of written language, right, in the Roman university. Okay, so when we go back, right, back in time from Roman, but before that, we definitely get into the Mycenaean, right? And then we go even, it's interesting, like, the Roman kind of spreads out, but when you go to Mycenaean, it's very much at the bottom of Italy. And then you go a little bit below, and then you get to Crete, the island of Crete, and that is the Minoan. Then if you go below that, a lot of times you get into Mesopotamia, and then you also get into North Africa, Egypt. So it's kind of interesting how, when you look at it on the map, how things have kind of traveled, right? We think of Mesopotamia as, like, the first civilization of Earth, right, in our current understanding. And we think of Egypt as well. Very, very advanced civilization that possibly was more advanced than we are right now, right? Especially when it comes to renewable energy, which we as humans are very, very confused about what is renewable energy. So it's interesting, if you look on the map, you see North Africa, Egypt, and then you see kind of Mesopotamia near it, right? And then you go up and you see the island of Crete, and then you go up and then you see the Mycenaean, right? The bottom of Italy, and then you go up. Then you start to get into Roman, and then you go even further out, and then you start to see Roman everywhere. So really, our sort of basic, design for their patriarchal hierarchical caste system, especially for we call the Roman white, because I'm from the U.S., so a lot of our institutional model, it does come from what we know as, like, the Roman white, right? Now, if I lived in China or if I lived in other places, I'm sure there's going to be other sort of influences. But the basic foundation was a matriarchal philosophy, or matriarchal teaching, and that was the Minoans. And supposedly the Minoans might have lived during the Taurus age. So that was definitely probably way back in time, way when, right? We don't really know. I don't know how many thousands of years that would have been in the past. But the Minoans, when we look at their art and we look at their sculpture, which their sculpture did influence the Mycenaean and then the Roman sculpture we know today, right? That is very much influencing all kinds of art making all around the world. it was very much matriarchal. And how we know it's matriarchal is because archaeologists have dug up these rings, and on these rings there's supposedly images of women, right? It's very high craftsmanship, these silver rings, high craftsmanship, some level of craftsmanship that I don't even think in this current time that we can really tap into that. So on these silver rings, there are literally, like, it looks like women in ritual. Like there's like a sun, and there's like animal, and they're like animals, and there's like women, and it literally looks like they're doing some sort of ritual. And there's a lot of silver rings that have that, right? That archaeologists have dug up, right? And excavating these sort of places, like these sort of the rubble of cities. And also we have found like written, it's similar to what we know as hieroglyphics, but it's not hieroglyphics. But I'm comparing it to hieroglyphics because it is very much similar with these. It has symbolism basically, right? And these symbols, a lot of I guess we don't really know where it comes from, and that's the great mystery. We don't really know where does this sort of, similar to hieroglyphics but not, where does it come from? People don't know. It's just kind of like, whoo, there, and it's there, but there's no sort of history or evolution to it, right? So that's kind of an indication that in this Minoan civilization, as well as this Mycenaean, that there was a level of knowledge, right, that was passed down, and also passed down to what we know as the Roman white domination, right? So yes, I wanted to share that with you guys. Kind of like a little history to kind of see, what's going on with this time period as we're sharing and recluding, right? So why are we doing this? Why is the universe giving us this opportunity to really share ourselves? Because everybody's sharing. You go on YouTube, everyone's sharing everything, but what's happening is that, again, it's getting a little bit convoluted. It's also getting very combative in the way that kind of the patriarchal age was like mine, like me, like that whole sort of like, it's like, egomania sort of thing. So, and that can be seen through like, consumerism, commercialism. It's still very distractive and addictive, right? And also very much about feeding. We're still much about like, I feeding my whatever, my territory, right? Feeding my territory. We're still in that kind of feeding my territory, right? Just like before technology in the patriarchal, let's say in the medieval period, it was very much about the people were feeding, right? Giving attention to the king, then the king will always make himself known, right? Every time you kind of like, I'm not looking about the king today, I don't really care, the king comes in your face and is like, give me your attention. I demand your attention, right? And that's a way of control. The more attention I have, the more control I have, right? The more energy I have. So energy for the king in the medieval time was how they're feeding me. They're feeding me through giving me their attention, through appraising me, and through giving me all their resources, and basically doing what I say. So we still have that kind of thing going on, but what we're going to get back to, and it's going to be a gradual, steady thing, is we're going to get back to what we call early 1800s, where vast majority of money was circulating in the streets. Not vast majority was in the banks, or vast majority was held by these corporations that did not share anything, right? We're actually going to deconstruct that paradigm, because it's very much a medieval paradigm, a Roman paradigm, where give me all your sheep and then I'm hoarding it all and just using it for myself, or give me all your taxes and I'm using it so I can build the most beautiful palace for my family that has nothing to do with you, right? Nothing to do with your the ascension and the spiritual growth and the prosperity growth of you the people. It was more so, give me all your tax so I can have all this beautiful sort of church of the $1 trillion church, right? So we have that sort of makeup today, right now. Well, a lot of the money is not circulating in the streets, but it used to, and we see like the 1800s. But then again, the banks and the corporations basically, and they hold it all, right? They hold it all, and they're not very generous with it, right? They're investing it, they're hoarding it, but it's not being distributed and it's not being circulated, I will say. So very much like medieval, right? Like, give me all your taxes, give me all your sheep, for the purpose of my territory, my family. My family is more important than your family. We're going to get into what's going to happen this matriarchal age, is we're going to start getting into exchange, right? Exchange, because that's what we had like in the 1800s. Is exchange was in the streets, except we're going to have this exchange in technology, and it's kind of, we can see it as, what is it called, the cryptocurrency, which I don't know much about, but I do know that it is very intuitively, I know it's very similar to the exchange system we had in the early 1800s, before these megalithic, I'll say megalithic sort of banks and corporations started to really just hold on and would not let go whatsoever. So we're going to start to get more into an exchange, and a lot of the exchange will be on internet, which we're seeing right now. A lot of young people, millennials, Gen Zs, are starting to, they're starting to become very resourceful and insightful about technology. They're using it to their advantage, right? They're understanding that there is prosperity within the Aquarian age and within the technology age, right? It's just, the only thing is that it's just about credibility, right? Because it's so new, right? Technology is what basically my whole when I was born, right? I'm only 24, like what, basically sort of two decades? That's not a lot of time. So what's happening is credibility, right? That's the one thing. Because any sort of trade or any sort of craft, like I'll give you this and you'll give me that, it's through craftsmanship. And craftsmanship is being credible. And credibility happens through time. It doesn't happen of, oh, this brilliant idea, and then I'm just going to shove it in people's faces. Right? It's about try and true, and that's what we're doing with the technology age. We're seeing try and true to see what works and what doesn't work, right? So we're seeing a lot of models, a lot of blueprints for how to, to sell, right? Everything is, sell, especially if you live in the U.S., sell. So we're definitely seeing a lot of, try and true kind of methods, but we're also going to continue to see new sort of models, right, for sustaining an audience and sustaining an attention, right? This, because that's kind of what the technology age is, taking that medieval king sort of, look at me, and we're just putting it to the technology age. Look at me, like, feed me all your energy and time. Look at me, appraise me, right? So I wanted to give you that little background, that history, just kind of let you know what's going on. But with the lineage, so what's happening, I want to talk about the lineage, right? Because it is very difficult to up-level and elevate a lineage, right? Because let's be, vast majority of our lineage is not doing so hot. And it's not that they didn't try, or that, our parents or grandparents just kind of, tapped out, or they just, it's just, it was heavy on this planet, right? We just so happened, right, through the will of God, right, to get out of this war, right? All this war, right? My grandmother, my great-grandmothers, all of this sort of like hostilities. We had discrimination, segregation, and we have the World War One, World War Two. We had the Vietnam War. I mean, it goes on and on and on, right? These sort of upsets, but a lot of these upsets that a lot of our our ancestors had to deal with was very much the patriarchal age deconstructing in a big way, right? In a big way. Our ways, right? Our negative ways of connecting to each other. We played it out, right? We had to play it out. And we almost, with the nuclear bomb, we almost played it out in a way that could have really, like, ooh, no, let's not go there, right? The universe, you can say even the ETs, right? Mother Gaia will allow us to play out our destructive behavior, but only to a certain extent. And nuclear bomb, that was like, nope, no more, you're done. You lost your opportunity, you're done. Nope, no more. So that's kind of, especially with the nuclear bomb, that's like, we went too far. Well, no, that's too far, right? Now we're talking actually the poisoning of the atmosphere that will affect multiple countries, even the country that is originally sending the bomb, right? So it's like, no more, you've lost your opportunity, okay? And then what's happening is that we're really trying to shift gears, right? We're really, really trying to shift gears. But, I mean, the baby boomers, that was a lot of trauma. And a lot of people, the baby boomers were born out of trauma, right? So when we look at the baby boomers today who, are much older, a lot of them they're, living in the hospitals, right? Not all of them, but there's a lot of, when we look at the baby boomers, we're like, what happened? Like, why do they all look so, like, ill and they don't love themselves and they have all these diseases and their body looks very dysfunction and it seems like there's just this deep pain within that sort of generation that's now, becoming much older or, about to die, basically. It's because a lot of them, they were born within trauma. So again, trauma, it doesn't just, it is carried down. So a lot of even my generation, born in the technology age, not even realizing that the fear, right? There's like deep unconscious fear catastrophe, right? Because of all these generations that, my great-grandmother fear, white man's going to walk in her house and rape her, but maybe, who knows? I don't know, right? Or with my great-grandfather who was a general in the World War II, the fear of when he was in submarine and literally he could have been bombed. There was German submarines and his team had to be so silent, couldn't even a pin, not even a breath, because they would have been heard by the German submarines and they would have been killed, bombed. Right? So when you really get to know your history, especially with your sort of, you learn from your ancestors, either spiritually, as I do a lot of times, I connect with them in the spiritual realm, as well as through like hearing the story of my mother, from the people around them. You really get to see like, wow, like there's definitely deep like unconscious fear within the young generations, right? We might be out of the war, but we still have to clean it up, right? It doesn't work like that. You don't just come out of a major war that was so traumatizing, the Holocaust, for example, right? I have, my grandmother was born out of her father being in that, right? Kind of. And then all of a sudden, you're just clean and you're just, bright and happy days. It really doesn't work like that. And it literally, it catches up to you. And a lot of these baby boomers, not all of them, but we're seeing that it's catching up to them. We didn't know how to heal, right? We didn't even try to heal. We didn't know even that we needed to heal as a nation, not just the U.S. I'm talking about Germans. I'm talking about everybody on this planet Earth. We needed to heal, but we didn't know how. We didn't think it was important, right? We didn't think healing was actually gonna like help us in life. right? We were just so focused on just getting by and just forgetting it. Let's just forget it ever happened and let's just keep it moving. But that doesn't work, right? It doesn't work because it kind of seeps into you, right? Think about trauma. It seeps into you. It kind of follows you, right? Like it becomes a shadow. And that shadow you can't hand down to your children. It becomes a shadow. It seeps into you, right? So what's happening right now with all these lineages, of people that are saying their family, dysfunction and, family disharmony and low vibrational family of all judgment and all this kind of stuff that I hear. We are wanting to heal thoroughly, right? So if you're watching this, most likely you're a person who wants to heal thoroughly. Because we're about, again, this new paradigm of Earth. We cannot carry the shadow of those times with us, right? We have to heal those shadows. We have to face those shadows. We have to extract, right? Whatever's seeping and lurking in our DNA or in our tissue, right? Even in our chakra systems, we can carry some of that, depression. Think of that depression. We be carrying that in our chakras and not even know that we're carrying that in our chakras. We have to literally extract that, and then we have to purify. So that's why there's so much emphasis, especially in the health and wellness industry, that's basically pioneering for the new age, right? The new paradigm of Earth. There's a heavy focus on healing. It can be in the form of healing through, renewable energy, right? We need that. That's very healing for the environment. Form of healing as in activism, human rights, animal rights. That's a form of healing, right? When it comes to herbalism, right? We're really trying to find other ways to self-correct that doesn't have to do with like heavy chemicals, because a lot of people, including myself, do not respond well to heavy medication, right? So we're trying, even Kundalini yoga, there's just huge emphasis globally on healing, right? Healing your family lineage, healing your physical body, healing your spirit, healing your mind, right? Healing your institutional model, healing your economy, right? Healing your ideology and your culture, like healing your religion, like get rid of this sort of, this lower vibrational judgment and curses and all that kind of stuff. Just eliminate that, clean that up. Right? We're really trying to clean up all of these boogeymans, all of these demons, all of these shadows, whatever fear that is, projected as a demon or a boogeyman or a curse or something negative that's very, very fear-based. We're trying to clean that up, right? Because a lot of these boogeymans, entities, wherever that is, it really comes from a low vibration, and that low vibration is very much like a depression, right? You're feeling depressed. When I mean depressed, think of it like a Romanesque sculpture where there's literally a demon on top of the person's body, like sitting on top of their head. Like it's really depressed. Like it almost feels like you're kind of like weighted, right? You're weighted by the shadow of your trauma, or you're weighted by the fear or the phobia, or you're weighted by your imbalance, right? Your malnourished sort of intelligence. You're weighted by that. What we're doing is we're trying to uplift it. And it is very difficult because we, if you're listening, whatever generation you're in, right? You could be a baby boomer for all I know, or you could be 14 years old, whatever generation. If you're watching this, it means that you are most likely wanting to uplift and clean up all that stuff. Think of yourself like the Great Flood. And I say no more. Right? No more of this low self-worth, low self-esteem, karmic sort of low vibrations that really do not help us, right? We're saying no more. We're creating the Great Flood, and see the Great Flood as letting go of emotions, right? Your mommy, grandma's depression, right? Letting go of emotions. We also see a letting go of diseases, right? You can clear diseases in your DNA. It is possible, right? It's a yogic science that you can discover. Even just through, taking care of yourself, even nutrition, you can really clear away those diseases that might want to like a shadow that's just kind of hanging around, you know, waiting for the opportunity to kind of, you know, come in, right? You can push that all out. You can also clean up your mindset. You can clean up the patterns and the karmic sort of relay that you're playing out, and you can expand that. So let's say you don't come from a very most of us, right? We don't come from a very expanded family line, right? A lot of people settle, they, you know, just get in a relationship, and, you know, it's not very fulfilling, right? You can expand your mind, right? And you can completely reform and reinvent your ancestral blueprint. Right? So every generation is a chance, as an opportunity for the blueprint to be changed. We know to a building in, you know, architecture, there is a, you know, foundational blueprint, but actually blueprint, you can make a house pretty much in any way you want. Creativity for architecture is, I mean, you can really, I mean, blueprint wise, you can do whatever you want. Like, there's so many blueprints, right? You can just choose, like, which blueprint do you want, right? You don't have to choose the blueprint of your mother. If you don't like the house of your mother, the house of your grandmother, you don't have to choose that blueprint, right? If you want to have a blueprint of like some curved, arcing, sort of like whimsical looking house that's like in Spain, like, do that, right? Right? Or let's say you know, your parents are obsessed with having mansions, and you're like, I just like a little house in the field with all these beautiful flowers and bluebells. You can do that. And we are remaking but we're wanting to take on a new blueprint. And right now what we're doing is we're challenging ourselves to really be imaginative, really be creative, and really trust ourselves, right? Because like any sort of building of a house, it does require determination. A lot of times it's not built overnight, right? And a lot of times the blueprint itself, it takes a level of knowledge, it takes a level of education, right? And it takes a level of experience, right? To see what works and what doesn't work, right? What we truly want and what we don't want, right? What is are we feeding ourselves, right? Or are we feeding our parents or our friends or society, right? So blueprint in which we will hand down to our children, this new paradigm of Earth, is something that we right now are coming up with, right? We right now are learning. It's a learning process. And for those of you who are here right now, you're the front runners, right? I mean, think of it. We just got out. I mean, we're still in it, but we had the guillotine until like 1939. Like, what? I'm like, whoa, like, what? It's literally medieval. I'm like, what is this medieval? Like, we're still in it? Like, oh my gosh. Like, I thought that we were out of that, but it's like, it's still here, right? So we're the front runners. Either you're 20, either you're 40, you're 50, 60, 10, whatever. You're the front runners. So what that means is you came in to create the frameworks for the next generation and the next generation. And it's just like the Roman period, there was a basic foundation. The Romans began to evolve it. The future generations evolved it. The future generations evolved it. Then we started to get roadways. Then we started to get bridges. We started to get aqueducts. Then we started to get city-states. And then we started to expand and go to other places and create. And then we expand more. Right? And that's what we're doing, except we're right in the period of the seed. Right? So before this patriarchal age, there was just a little seed. That was a little seed. And there was a front runner, and we'll never know the front runners for the patriarchal age, right? Who was the one that really planted the seed of this patriarchal age with, you know, this Roman expansion everywhere? Who did that? Who were the front runners of that? We don't know, right? A long time ago, and we're the same thing, except we are planting a seed for a new paradigm of Earth. Very much like the patriarchal, the blueprint that they really heavily, created. Yeah, they really did their thing with that. But we're creating a blueprint. So you're the front runner. So allow yourself to learn, because in planting your seed, you are, it's like we're just creating the frameworks. We're just scratching the surface, right? But we're in planting that seed. It's like we're sharing an idea, and that idea will continue to, as more and more generations begin to marvel at it and contemplate on it. They will begin to even expand upon that idea. The idea will begin to become like a seed, and then the seed, there's multiple seeds that grow, and then all of a sudden that one sort of seed grows into the idea, becomes a whole sort of pasture of many seeds that are growing ideas, right? And that's kind of what's happening. We're kind of like the Romans, and we're spreading the seed of this new paradigm of earth. And this new paradigm of earth has its own culture, it has its own philosophy, just like the Roman had their own culture, their own philosophy, religion, ideology, belief system. We are creating our own. We're creating our own culture, our own institution, our own belief system, our own ideology, and our own religion, right? But it's going to be inclusive of the patriarchal establishment and the way they did things, but it's also going to be inclusive of the reform, right? And the creative, imaginative, and sovereign humanness, right? So that's kind of what we're doing. We're taking off the eye patch of just looking at life through the patriarchal lens and just seeing what we've been, what the white man told us to see, which is, we see blacks as, we're trained to see blacks as less, right? Blacks are less, right? Jews are, they don't belong, whatever it is we're looking, right? History is this way, institution must be this way, our economy must be this way, right? We're looking and we're seeing, and a lot of us are not fulfilled with what we're seeing. So what happens is, through our unfulfillment, right, just like unfulfillment with slavery, unfulfillment with war, what we're doing is we're unfulfilled by the trash yards, we're unfulfilled by the major economic imbalances, right, and the political charlatans. We're unfulfilled. So what we're doing is we're opening the other eye, and we're seeing in a more well-rounded view. We're seeing that, wait a minute, there's a whole other side to life that I was completely had no clue about. There's a well-rounded, the life is more dynamic than I will know, right? And what I believe, what I've been taught to believe by my parents and that kind of lineage that set me up to basically follow the patriarchal demand, I can see that there's something more. Right? The prosperity, manifestation, alchemy, wisdom, that's something that's real, right? That is something that is real. It's been withheld, discriminated. It has been locked away, but it's very much a real thing. So that's what a lot of people are beginning to awaken within themselves, that their energy is power. We know renewable energy is power, and that's why we thought, the oil, right? As when that came about, we were like, that's, energy is power, right? Energy is power. Either that's energy like Billy Blanks and Tybo, who has a very strong will, right? Who loves what he does. Either that's energy of, Da Vinci, who is, kept very willful about his paintings and his discoveries. Energy is actually the real sort of prosperity, and people are realizing that, right? People are realizing that renewable energy, right, sustainable energy, is actually power, right? Energy. Because the more energy you have, the more creative you can be, the better decisions you can make, the more options you have, and the more ideas you can actually cultivate in your physical life and your physical body. And usually with that, the more abundance you can have, the more fertile, the more energy you have. That's why they say young women are the most fertile than older women, because young women have a lot of energy, a lot of energy, right? They're in their prime when they're very young because they have a lot. And think about women when we are young, we have with trillions of eggs, right? And then as we get older, we start to get less and less eggs, right? Less and less chances to be pregnant with a child. So see that as a young woman has a lot of energy, a lot. But that a lot of energy doesn't have to just tap out once we reach 35. No. Actually, it's said that a yogi is meant to, at age 36, a yogi is actually, that's the age they will be for the rest of their life if they're a true yogi practitioner, right? Meaning they'll look 36 at like 46, 56, 66, 76, 86, right? And that's kind of the yogic science of renewable energy. So you're never like plateauing until you're like some older people, they're just so like they can't even breathe. They can't even breathe because they don't have any energy, right? Without energy, you're dead. You're a dead thing, right? And there's some people that you can still live as flesh, but you can be dead. You can call them people who are dead. Without prana, you're dead, right? But your body, your fluid, your flesh can still keep going, right? Like a dead animal, its flesh doesn't just poof away. Your flesh can still like go, right? Like a dead deer, but eventually it deteriorates. And that's what we see in a lot of people, like they're basically dead inside, and their body, like literally it's like a dead deer on the side of the road, and the body's still flesh, like it's there, but it's slowly like deteriorating and deteriorating and deteriorating because there's no prana, right? When there's no prana, there's no soul. You're just going to deteriorate and deteriorate and deteriorate. And what is soul? What is prana? What is that? That is life force. Life force, pranayam, life force, right? Life force is the same as enthusiasm. It's the same as charisma. It's the same as being energetic. It's the same as being playful. It's the same as being willful, right? It's the same as being determined or being resilient or being tolerant. That's life force. And the more life force a person has, especially in older age, the more soulful they tend to be, right? The more soulful are, and the more energy, like pranic energy, meaning they have a lot of like spunk, right? They have a lot of things that they can do, even in older age, like 60. But energy, just like this planet, energy can go two ways. We have non-renewable energy and we have renewable energy. Non-renewable energy is like, I'm trying to fuel myself off of McDonald's, right? I can get it. I can fuel myself, but it's not nourishing me and it's not providing me the nutrients that I require in order for me to create a sustainable level of energy. Meaning I drink that coffee, I get that high, but then I drop down. So it's not sustainable, right? Just like our non-renewable energy, we can get it, but it's very, very shaky, right? For a lot of nations, it's very, very shaky. Their non-renewable energy, right? It's almost like some nations it's not even reliable, right? Or it's very toxic. As we know, like McDonald's, sometimes it can be really, really like not healthy for your body, right? And that's what non-renewable energy is like you're just gripping for any form of energy just to keep yourself alive, but at the cost of inviting in toxins, right? Like some people, they need to drink, they're alcoholics, they need to drink because that's their only way of just keeping themselves alive, right? But at the same, there's a cost with non-renewable energy. There's a cost. People don't realize it, but over time, the latent effect of non-renewable energy is toxic, toxins, right? And we're just now understanding that with our non-renewable energy that we have, that the latent effect is environmental, sort of hiccups, maybe big hiccups. So with renewable energy, right? Renewable energy of you as a person, renewable energy is clean, right? Clean living, right? Clean living. Clean living is sustainable living, right? Clean living means I don't need to invite in like toxins in order to keep my energy, balanced, and to keep my energy at a consistent sort of a level, right? Enthusiastic level. So this is kind of what we're discovering, right? Energy is everything. Energy is everything. And the more energy you have, the more ideas, the more creative you can be, the more radiant you are, the more prosperity you attract, the more abundance you attract. And this is a real thing. And people are realizing that. People who are just solely like, a dead deer with no soul or no prana, just kind of deteriorating, emotionally or psychologically, mentally, that is nothing, right? That's not going to attract anything, right? There's no movement to that, right? Movement is life. Life is moving. A tree is moving. It is moving its pranic energy. It's moving its subtle energy continuously. Movement is energy. So when we say that there's not much movement in my life, or not much movement in the whatever it is I'm trying to do, it just means we need more energy. We need to harness more energy, more renewable energy, and we need to project that energy, right? We need to project that energy stronger, right? We need to be more enthusiastic in the projection of our energy towards that, because the future of this planet is about, again, we're going to be exchanging energy. And a lot of us, we're going to be looking, particularly when we talk about healing, because that's the future, is a lot of healing. We're going to be exchanging knowledge on how to heal, right? How to heal. And that can be that could be scientific, that could be mathematical, that could be artistic, musical, it could be you're a doctor. That's going to take up so many, the range in which you can accomplish that is really, really wide. But that's going to be the future for us, in the way that we need energy, right? The alcohol, the McDonald's, it's not helping us, because a lot of people have severe metabolical dysfunction, and they don't even know why they're feeling depressed, or why they're feeling sluggish, or why they're feeling lazy, or why they're feeling imbalanced or insecure, right? It's because and our metabolical health has a lot to do with our reserve of energy. And people don't even know. They think, just kind of, sort of deteriorate, but I can still maintain great levels of prosperity, but I'm deteriorating. It's like, it doesn't work like that, right? It doesn't work like that. Beauty, we know, is within, right? Courage, we know, is within, right? Ideas, we know, is within. Creativity, we know, is within. None of that has to do with anything without. It has to do with your level of energy. And the more energy you have, the more things you can get done, the more movement you can have. And the more movement you can have, the more sort of things you can kind of organize, the more things that you can deliver, and the more things that you can shift and you can master in this life, right? So when we have non-renewable energy, or when, especially when our metabolic health is way off the kilter, because, our navel is really insecure because, McDonald's, or we're just not strong, right? We don't have a strong nervous system or a strong metabolic health, so that we can't really, if you have a strong metabolical health, you can literally digest a rock, right? Because it can be very strong. It's very, very strong and very, very resilient. But when your metabolical health is trained, when it's drained, a lot of people, it's just the slowest kind of it literally just is not even moving. So energy a lot of times has to do with metabolic health. It has to do with circulation. Metabolic health is about circulating not only food throughout the system, but also emotions, psychological. The emotions actually psychological energy as well, mental energy as well. So when we talk about working on that navel, we're talking about I'm moving some psychological, mental, and emotional energy as well, so that I can be more in balance, right? So that I'm no longer in the whirlwind of like psychological, mental, and emotional sort of like, sort of like I'm being pulled, right? I'm being pulled. It helps you to really anchor yourself, and that's energy. Energy helps you to anchor yourself. And the energy that we talk about, the grounding energy that helps us to get things done and help us to move forward, just like the energy in our cars, the energy in, our electricity with, our phones and our TVs, all of that is movement. All of that is movement, right? But it's concentrated, directed energy. And how we direct our energy is not through the psychological sort of whirlwind or emotional or mental. How we really command ourselves to move that energy forward, like electricity through the lines, or like our fossil fuel is through the navel. The navel literally conducts, pushes, projects, and creates a channel for that energy to move through, and for that energy to pull you, right? Pull you into the direction you need to go, what you're wanting to go in. But when our metabolic health and our navel is completely like just drained, what happens is our energy, it becomes, a lot of people are very distracted. A lot of people are all over the place. Their energy, they can't even concentrate it. There's no sense of channel. They're not projecting energy anywhere, right? They're not concentrating energy anywhere. And then what happens is your energy just becomes like scattered, and it becomes like aloof, and it becomes very, very like people are living in the clouds. When you don't have a navel that's strong, a lot of times your energy, you have a lot of energy because everybody has energy, but it's like living in the clouds. Like all your energy is just above your head, and that can be extremely frustrating for people, because it's like in the clouds, but I don't know how to actually like concentrate it, channel it into an actual like education or practice or training, right? So that's what we're doing right now. We're and that's a process, right? To bring this sort of dream, like Walt Disney, the dream of Mickey Mouse, right? And then bringing it into an actual artistry. How we do that is through, a lot of times, craftsmanship. Craftsmanship is being credible, as Walt Disney was very credible through his craftsmanship, right? It's also through a level of resilience, and it's also through a level of dedication, determination, right? This is my craftsmanship. I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to continue to put it out there. I'm going to continue to put it out there. I'm going to evolve it. I'm going to practice it. I'm going to practice it. I'm going to practice it. That's the navel, right? When people are like, I have it there, but I'm just kind of like, that's usually the aloof kind of like, your energy is scattered, right? Your energy is probably, it's too much in the mind, too much in the emotion. A lot of times, sometimes in order for us to really get simple, and for us to really get clear, and for us to make decisions first, in order for us to make decisions, we have to get into the navel. That's where we make decisions, right? And that's where we make constructive decisions as well. So, and that's where we have the courage to back ourselves up, to hold ourselves, right? To stand up for ourselves, and also to count on ourselves, is through the navel. Our metabolic health is how we count on ourselves. When our metabolic health is drained, we don't feel secure enough that we're going to make it and that we can see it through. So usually when our navel is very like drained, usually we settle. We're like, I don't have enough charisma or courage to keep going through it or keep doing what I'm doing, so I'm just going to settle for this and just kind of like live in space land while I'm settling for this or whatever that is. So usually the people that, again, have the strongest sort of pranic, right, the pranic sort of projection is usually that the people who have the apana sort of like Billy Blanks, like apana, even like Da Vinci. Da Vinci was not Billy Blanks. Billy Blanks is Taibo, punching kind of stuff, right? Da Vinci was not about that. But Da Vinci was very much in his apana, and the way that he was constantly moving his energy, like drawing, writing, sculpting. Like he was constantly in his craftsmanship, and craftsmanship means you're literally you're touching, you're feeling, you're in your senses, you're doing it, you're pushing it, you're pulling it, you're moving it around, you're sculpting it, whatever it is you're doing something, right? You're using that pranic energy to get the idea, the vision, but the apana energy is that craftsmanship. So that's when we talk about the circulation between the higher chakras and the lower chakras, and that circulation starts within the navel. It starts within the metabolic health. The metabolic health is what literally circulates the energy within, the ideas in the brain, the psychological field, also circulates the emotional field, and also brings it into like the apana, which is about eliminating psychological debris, emotional debris, but also about projecting, right? Like literally projecting your emotional, mental sort of idea or desire or intention out. The apana is like out, right? The psychological and the emotional usually is like in, right? Emotional usually like I'm in it. I'm in the ocean of motion. Psychological is usually like I'm inside a thought. But the apana energy, the navel, a lot of times is about out. Right? The navel, when we dance or when we do exercise, usually it's about out, 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 out. It's not about in. Right? The apana is the exhale. The prana is like the kind of pulling that energy in, right? Pulling that energy in, and that apana is like literally like pushing it out. And also when you push out that energy, you're also projecting your energy, you're also expanding your energy on the exhale, right? So I wanted to discuss about the apana energy within the navel and within metabolic health and the craftsmanship, because energy is craftsmanship, and basically craftsmanship is what I call refined energy, right? You can have energy and it can be a blob. You can have energy called a messy house, a hoard house. But that doesn't necessarily mean that energy is moving anywhere. It could be a dusty old table energy that's just kind of sitting there. So you could be stagnant energy. But there's also refined energy. And refined energy is very much like a feng shui house, where energy is moving like at a velocity. It's moving a lot. The energy is moving like constantly every second. It's moving a lot, right? And that's called craftsmanship. And when we look at a feng shui house, we see perfect craftsmanship, and the way everything is placed in a very particular alignment. It's craftsmanship. You've worked on it, you've practiced it, you've learned it, you're wanting to master it. It's craftsmanship. The same thing with refined energy can be like a beautiful painting, right, that you made, right? That's just amazing, right? That's craftsmanship. Or it could be like you're a pianist. It's craftsmanship. It's refined energy. And how you know it's refined energy is that it has so much movement. And movement doesn't necessarily mean it's fast or it's slow. It just means that there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of higher energy. And higher energy, like when you listen to like a slow piano piece, or higher energy like when you go to an exhibit of Da Vinci, you're like, oh. Higher energy usually has to do with that, whatever it is you're looking at or you're listening to. It is elevating and up-leveling you to a higher level of not only intelligence, a higher level of receptivity, a higher level of generosity, but overall a higher level of self-love, really. That's kind of when we think about a higher energy, right? Because when you have self-love, you're up leveled and elevated in self-love, you also have you're very open, right? You're very, very open. You believe in yourself, you believe in your potential. And those people tend to be the ones that are the warriors, and they tend to be the ones that manifest miracles on this planet Earth. And there's nothing more like miraculous and beautiful than a human being actually creating a miracle, right? And whatever, again, it could be, there's so many ways. That's the most beautiful energy, is creating a miracle. Because planet Earth, it gets rough. We get destructive. Like I said, nuclear bomb. I mean, we get so caught in our destructive ways that we are willing to literally poison our atmosphere just to, sort of, put somebody down, right? Put another nation down, right? To be, I'm my way, the highway, like, me, you need to listen to me, obey me. And that agitation, that, endless fighting that never leads to any sort of discussion or creative collaboration, right? We get so like caught in these destructive ways, and the boogeyman and the shadow and the exorcism, because I have all these entities, and we get so caught in that. So the most beautiful, sometimes we get so caught that literally we wipe ourselves out, and we have wiped ourselves out on this planet. This is our 5th time at not wiping ourselves out. We have done this, right? Known as the Great Flood. And also other times where it was just environmental, right? The axis shift, or major ice age, or major fire, right? Fire, volcano and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere causing, everything to get dark and, kind of barren, right? And that's not necessarily us extincting ourselves, but we do get to points. We get to critical points. We do. Where we get really, really neurotic to the point where, like, I'm about to push the button to bomb use the nuclear bomb to bomb Russia. I'm about to press it. I'm 2 inches. I'm 1 centimeter. I'm about to press. Okay, I'm not going to press it. Right? We get so close to, like, doing things that are completely destructive. But what saves our lives is that miracle. And sometimes that miracle can just be a whisper. It can just be a touch on the shoulder. All of a sudden we just feel like, or we hear a song and we're like, I hear a song. Or we see, like, we remember a child, or we remember a picture we saw, right? Or we remember the beach, and that saves us. That saves our lives. That saves our lives. Right? And that's why humanity will always prevail, and humanity will always survive. Even the I'm about to bomb Russia, I'm about to do it. Okay, I'm not gonna do it because I felt like, I remember hearing like a German pianist, and I'm like, why would I'm not gonna do that, right? So that's why humanity will always prevail, even if it's a fight, even if it's like it seems in the moment, it seems really painful, and it seems really, really challenging, right? But you and I, we are the front runners of a new paradigm of Earth, and we've gone through the pain, and there's still pain on this planet in form of disease and all kinds of things on this planet. And that's why we need to grow very close to our spirituality, very close to our creativity, very close to our healing, right? Our healing modalities, our healing art, because that healing art is going to give us enough energy to literally burn through any disease that's in our family line, burn through any destructive habit, addiction, any sort of any blueprint that's going to set us up to live out of sync with humanity, with sovereignty, with liberty, and with prosperity. We are getting our energy back. We're taking our energy back, and we're healing, and we're saying, I have the energy, I do, to burn through all of that. I'm just like, burn the forest down, right? Burn this sort of diseased forest, or this, this whatever, this thing that wants to spread, that wants to continue through me. No, I'm not going to allow this to continue. The doubt, the fear, the boogeyman, the shadow, the entity, whatever it is, it won't continue through me, right? Because I have the energy. It's like I have the will, right, to be to work on my craftsmanship, right? And to allow my talent and allow my gift to prevail over anything that may try to dim, drain, or seduce me into forgetting myself and forgetting the knowledge of myself, the wisdom of myself, and forgetting the opportunity, the chance, right, for me to clean it up, right? So that's what we're all doing. We're trying to clean it up. And as painful as it may be, it's many times, it's worth it to really start to see, right? You're starting to build your house, and you're starting to see things come together, and you're like, this is the image of my great vision as a soul and as a pranic energy. This is my great vision, and I'm seeing it come to fruition. And how I made it is through the will of my intention and through the will of my dedication